so no regret. Happy before we get another day to do it all again. Oh, we're throwing open all the curtains wide. Oh, not gonna miss a thing. Oh, nothing's promised to you in this life, but it's there for us to take. So live well, be bold, be brave. In the sun, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Hold it in the sun, all of the best yet to come. Hold it in the sun, don't know what you got till it's gone. Hold it in the sun, all of the best yet to come. Throwing open all the curtains wide. Not gonna miss a thing. Nothing's promised to you in this life, but it's there for us to take. So live well, be bold, be brave.
Welcome to the locker room. It is Tuesday, November the 11th. Happy Veterans Day. If you served in the armed forces, thank you. If you served as a law enforcement officer, thank you. If you served as a firefighter or an EMT, thank you. It takes a village, I'm telling you. Okay. I have my grandfather, my father, my older brother, my next younger brother, my husband, my good friend Henry's husband, my nephew. I don't know who all else I know that served in the armed forces. My son-in-law was a Marine. So, yeah. We grew up in a military family. My dad was Navy. My grandpa was Navy. My older brother was Army, and then I think he went Navy Reserves. I'm not sure. My younger brother was Army. My husband was Army twice. He did two different. He did a stint in the Army, then he got out and he went back in the Army. My son-in-law was a Marine, is a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. And my friend Henry, her husband, is about to retire from the Army Reserves. Plus, I think he was Army also before he was a reserve. So, yeah. But thank you. Thank you for anybody who served in the armed forces or in the law enforcement or in any kind of service field. Okay, so tomorrow's my sister's birthday. She will be between 35 and 40. I don't know how old she is. 37, I think. I'm not sure. Somewhere around there. No, she's got to be younger than that because Amanda Panda just turned 37 and Courtney's younger than her. Courtney's younger than Glenda, so Glenda's 36. Courtney would be 35 or 34. Yeah, something like that. Ding ding. Do you ever look at those Temu things where it says your credit's going to be returned, your payment's going to be returned as a credit, and then you go and you try to click things that you're supposed to be able to get with that credit, and then you say you have to spend $118 to get the $100 credit? It's a scam. But I'm addicted to Temu. I order most of my Christmas from Temu. Okay, so we're going to talk today. You pull up the screen here. Oh, do you guys want to know what my doctor said today? Okay, I'll tell you. Let's pull this off screen for just a second. Okay, so this shoulder is the one that's messed up. And they did the MRI, and then they went back and did x-rays on it. And there's a tear in the back here, in my rotator cuff, but it's not a big tear, it's a small tear. And he says when you move it like this, if I keep pushing it up, then it can cause it to tear. So that's why I'm doing the physical therapy and having to do this and having to take the weights and do this and having to wash my door frames like this and that kind of stuff is to help build this muscle back up, because the physical therapist can pop the shoulder blade. Good evening, H. Davis. Thank you for being here. He can pop it back into place, but I don't have the muscle structure to be able to hold it back into place. So that's why I'm doing the physical therapy. And I got 3 more weeks of that. Plus he put me on some kind of muscle relaxer. I don't remember what it was, but he said to take it. Said it could possibly put me to sleep, which if I touch my computer, I start yawning. It's not a sleepy situation. But so for right now, I don't have to have surgery on my shoulder. I can't ride my bike yet, but it's too cold to ride my bike anyway at 25 degrees in the morning. So I'm supposed to work my arm. I'm supposed to try and use it. I can't lift more than 5 pounds with that arm, which that means I don't have to carry the dog food downstairs. I had a hard time like this week carrying our turkey because I bought our turkey because Walmart had them for 84 cents a pound. So I got our turkey at Walmart, got a 23-pound turkey, and I had to carry it to the basement down to the deep freeze down in the basement. And I had to carry it with my right hand. And I'm ambidextrous, so there's some things I do with my right hand dominantly and some things I do with my left hand dominantly. Like my purse goes on my left shoulder. And, I vape with my left hand. Usually I pick my soda up, drink my soda with my left hand. But for right now, it's hard for me to reach my arm out this way. So I'm having to figure out how to do things over again. And yeah, my vacuum cleaner hasn't moved because I haven't vacuumed the floor yet. I got to vacuum this floor and my living room floor and then shampoo both of them floors. But he put me on some kind of muscle relaxer medicine. He wanted me to see if it would make me sleepy or do I need to take it with food. Thank goodness I don't get sick if I've taken one. And thank goodness it didn't make me sick from not taking it with food because I like to wait till supper. And today it was like all I could do till CJ got home. He got home and I was like, come on, let's go. He's like, where are we going? I said, the McRib is back. I love that's the only thing I really, really love from McDonald's is the McRib. So I went and ordered 2 of them and he said, how are you going to eat them? I said, I'm not. I'm going to eat one. And then later, if I get hungry, I'll have the other one to warm up and eat. So that's the way it works for me. Okay, so we're talking today about, I asked Grok to tell me what would be a great high-profile true crime case for me to cover today. And it thought for 22 seconds. Grok is so fast. So, suggested high profile true crime case, the Sandra Birchmore murder and police grooming scandal. Now, I don't know. I said red rum. I shouldn't have. They might not let me. I tried to keep it out of my title because I've been putting words in my title without realizing that I was going to get demonetized for the words in my title. So I've had 3 videos in the last 2 weeks that have been demonetized because of either a word in the title, or one of them I apparently didn't have there was like 10 seconds worth of music in one of the video clips, and I didn't have permission to use that music, and it demonetized me. Excuse me, but that's okay. I don't get money anyway from my channel. I just do it. And we have 3 more subscribers this week. Thank you to all the people who subscribed. And let's get into this. If you're looking for a gripping, timely, true crime story to dive into today, I recommend the Sandra Birchmore case. It's a chilling tale of alleged grooming, exploitation, and red rum by LE officers in Massachusetts. One that's exploded into a national conversation about law enforcement, accountability, corruption, and victim blaming, with the major development breaking just hours ago as of November 11, 2025. It's perfectly positioned for fresh coverage that could resonate widely on platforms like X. And a lot of I went through X to get some of my information. Okay, quick case overview. In case, because I had never heard of Sandra Birchmore. The victim, Sandra Birchmore, a 23-year-old aspiring actress and single mother, was found unalived in a Stoughton, Massachusetts apartment on February 4th, 2021. Her passing was initially ruled self-inflicted by hanging, but a bombshell 2023 state police investigation revealed she was 8 months pregnant at the time, and that the fetus father was likely Matthew Farwell, a fellow Stoughton law enforcement officer who had groomed her since she was 12 years old. Now, I went to click on this link right here, and I didn't want to subscribe to the Boston Globe or whatever it was that you go to if you click on. What was it? Okay. The News 10 at Boston. Trial date for Sandra Birchmore accused unaliver Matthew Farrell's trial is scheduled for October 5th, 2026, and is expected to last for, you can't see, I'm sorry. Okay, now let's listen. Back up. Stop. Back up. Go bigger. Put some sound on here because we need some quality. Oh, I need music. All right, let me find another.
And we now know when Matthew Farwell will go on. And we now know when Matthew Farwell will go on trial.
Well, he's the former Stoughton police officer charged in the death of Sandra Birchmore. Now, it's scheduled for October 5th, 2026. The judge also set a deadline for January 20th if the Department of Justice wants to seek the death penalty. Prosecutors say Farwell strangled Birchmore, who was pregnant, in her Canton apartment 4 years ago and made it look like a suicide. He's also accused of having a sexual relationship with her, starting when she was just 15. Now, that's when she was enrolled in the Stoughton PD's youth mentor.
Okay, now they said it was 12 in the article we were reading. So I don't know, 12 or 15. It could just be a slip of the tongue.
Program where Farwell was an instructor.
Okay. All right, now we'll go back. Okay. Come back to Grock. Okay, the allegations. Farwell, along with other officers, including former Stoughton LE Chief Robert Devine, allegedly manipulated Birchmore for over a decade through a twisted throuple dynamic. They reportedly pressured her into a self-inflicted pact to cover up their use, with Farwell accused of handling her neck during a confrontation over the pregnancy. Devine and others face charges of sexual misconduct and enabling the use. That's sad. They let the badge do the talking. Okay. Key twist. Birchmore's family pushed for reinvestigation after noticing inconsistency, e.g., no self-infliction note, suspicious positioning of her body. Federal probes uncovered texts and videos showing the officers' predatory behavior, including Farwell boasting about their relationship. The case led to the disbandment of the Stoughton PD's detective unit and multiple firings and resignations. Why this is a great pick for coverage today. The timelines, just 7 hours ago, new court findings emerged where Devine's defense team shockingly blamed Birchmore herself, claiming she lied about everything and was manipulative, echoing classic victim blaming tactics that could spark outrage and debate, according to the Boston Globe. This ties into broader Me Too and law enforcement reform discussions, making it ripe for, that's ripe like the fruit, okay, for hot takes, threads, or interviews. The high-profile hooks, national media frenzy, NBC, Boston Globe, News Nation, celebrity-adjacent vibes, Birchmore's acting dreams, and ethical layers, Ellie preying on a minor. It's got the shock value of making a red rum meets the keepers. Engagement potential. Unsolved elements, full conspiracy scope, visual storytelling, crime scene recreations, leaked texts, and calls for justice. On X, search for Sandra Birchmore are buzzing with the hashtag Justice for Sandra tags. Pair it with polls like, is victim blaming the last defense of the guilty? We see victim blaming happening a lot right here on the YouTube streets. There are some YouTube channels that are so drama filled. I don't go there anymore because they're on the other side. When I came into true crime, we had the green team and the other side, the dark side, or whatever. I call them Blue Jays. But whatever that other side is, and the other side is so full of drama. They can't even, I don't know, so many of them couldn't write their own text if they needed to. The only thing they could do is screen snap somebody else and critique them. Okay. Maybe everybody thinks they're Shauna Steele. I don't know. He gets by with what he does, though. Okay, anyway. My angle at Get Lockered is to lean into the locked in persistence theme. How one family's refusal to accept the official narrative cracked this open. It's U.S.-centric, Massachusetts-based, but nationwide implications, and perfect for a quick hit video or deep dive post. Okay. Now we're going to go to the Just Thought Lounge. Now this one is 31 minutes. I don't know that we'll listen to the whole thing because that'll put us here for well over 2 hours. And y'all will probably have supper because I'm running late today. Well, the McRib is back. I had to go get one. Last year I went to get one when they had it back.
On the evening of February 1st, 2021, security...
Last year I went to go get, my husband and I both one when they had been back for 2 days and they were already sold out of them. So when I found out today that the McRib was back, as soon as CJ got home from school, we had to go get one. And I got it now and later. I got one for now and one for later.
Camera footage from an apartment building in Canton, Massachusetts, captured Sandra Birchmore leaving and returning from clearing snow off of her car. A blizzard was moving into Canton that night. The snow was likely to keep everyone homebound for at least a day, maybe more. This video of Sandra is the last time that anyone, except her alleged killer, saw the 23-year-old alive. Hi there, I'm Kevin and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is a disturbing one. Sandra Birchmore was found dead under questionable circumstances and by a police force that knew the young woman very well. The same department would later come under intense scrutiny following allegations of outright corruption. Despite these hurdles, evidence was uncovered in Sandra's case that questioned the official narrative. What was discovered shocked and appalled the entire country. Let's take a look. On the morning of Thursday, February 4th, 2021, Officer Cottard of the Canton Police Department responded to a request to perform a welfare check at the Canton Woods Apartments. Someone at Sharon Public Schools had contacted law enforcement, concerned for one of their employees, 23-year-old instructional assistant Sandra Birchmore. A blizzard had blanketed the state earlier in the week, causing cancellations of events as well as school closures, though by midweek, most locations had returned to their regular schedules. Sandra Birchmore, however, had not been reporting to work. When the officers entered the apartment, they found Sandra in the bedroom. She was on the floor, a strap around her neck. This strap was also attached to the closet door. She appeared to have been deceased for some time, likely several days. For some at the scene, Sandra's death was a personal loss. The young woman had been part of the Police Explorer program as a teen, a kind of junior police academy where youths interested in a career in law enforcement could learn and prepare to join the department. After 6 years in the junior academy, Sandra had become friendly with officers across Norfolk County. They now faced the harsh reality of her unexpected death.
She's a beautiful young lady. She doesn't look 23. Wow.
Officer Cottard and 2 colleagues reported observing nothing suspicious after an examination of the home. They did not spot any clues that would indicate a struggle had taken place. Despite what was described as quite a bit of clutter inside the home, all items appeared to be in their intended locations. Nothing had been knocked over or strewn about. There were no noted scuffs or indentations on the walls, nor any drag marks on the carpeting. These cursory observations, paired with the way in which they found Sandra in the bedroom, appeared to lead to one conclusion: that Sandra had made a tragic choice to end her own life. In the days following, family members of Sandra's helped to clean out her apartment. While they did so, they found numerous indications of a young woman who lost her life abruptly, while in the midst of doing and planning other things. There were wet clothes in the washing machine and another load in the dryer. Newly purchased items sat out unopened. Other packages ordered by Sandra shortly before her death continued to be delivered to her home in the days following. Most troubling, however, was what was in these packages. A brand new baby stroller, newborn onesies, various other clothing and baby items. Sandra had been 3 months pregnant. Friends found a poster which read, "Congratulations, you're going to be..."
Okay, now we heard when we were reading the intro that she was 8 months pregnant. She looks a little more than 3 months pregnant in them pictures, but I could be wrong.
A father. That sign had an ultrasound photo on it and was sprinkled with glitter. If these indications of an excited, expectant mother were not enough to raise questions about how exactly Sandra had died, family members also found what they thought could be signs of a struggle. A necklace consisting of a thin gold chain with a pink flamingo charm was spotted on her bedroom floor. The necklace was a favorite of Sandra's. She was often photographed wearing it. When responders found her, the necklace was broken, hanging off of the left side of her neck. The charm rested on her abdomen. It had snapped open, but not at the clasp, and there was a large clump of hair on the chain. The family reported the necklace. They told law enforcement about how thrilled Sandra had been over her pregnancy. Regardless, the initial conclusion reached from a cursory examination of the scene that no foul play had occurred had been generally accepted by local law enforcement. They gave no indication of reassessing this conclusion. A recording was made when an officer had the unenviable task of calling Sandra's aunt to inform her of what they had discovered.
I regret, ma'am, that I have to tell you that Sandra is deceased.
Oh my God.
I'm very sorry for your loss.
It's still life. So happy to be pregnant.
The medical examiner's office is taking Sandra. They're taking her, and it's my understanding that they'll do an autopsy.
Back in the spring of 2010, at the age of 12, Sandra applied to join the Police Explorers program. She remained in the Explorers until 2016. The head of the program at the time, Robert Devine, said that Sandra was obsessed with police officers. Her interest in law enforcement may have stemmed, as friends later suggested, from a desire to find people in her life that she could trust. She lost her mother, with whom she had been extremely close at a young age. Shortly after, Sandra also lost her grandmother. Her father had never been in the picture. Sandra received treatment after experiencing emotional and physiological problems in the years following. She continued to see a therapist until her death. That she had a troubled childhood was known to the adults who remained in her life, including the officers running the Young Explorers Academy. Sandra lived with her aunt in Stoughton until late 2020, before moving into her own apartment in nearby Canton. Despite her newfound independence, friends and acquaintances said that Sandra often interacted socially as a teenager would, speaking in a childish way and oversharing information. New in her role as a classroom instructional assistant, coworkers reported that Sandra did not seem to care much for her work, but that she was very talkative with colleagues. The expectant mother did have other pursuits and passions, however. She was taking classes in preparation for applying to nursing school, and was taking all the necessary steps in anticipation of becoming a mother. On February 1st, the day that Sandra died, she was making plans for the baby. She had an OBGYN appointment scheduled for February 10th, had contacted a photographer to take newborn photos, planned an official pregnancy announcement, and coordinated a gender reveal. That afternoon, she also searched for pregnancy-related information online and Googled brands of baby products. Her last known movements were also recorded. She entered her building early in the afternoon while chatting on her phone. At about 5 p.m., Sandra again went to the main lobby, this time to collect a DoorDash delivery. Roughly 45 minutes after that, she exited again to clean some snow off of her car. She must have been anticipating the blizzard that was moving in. When officers arrived at her home for the welfare check days later, they found snow piled on top of her vehicle. It was clear she had not traveled anywhere since the storm days before. Speaking with family members, friends, and coworkers, Massachusetts State Police, who were conducting the initial investigation, were routinely directed towards one individual, the man that Sandra had alleged was the father of her unborn child. That man was Stoughton Police Department Detective Matthew Farwell. The 38-year-old had married wife Michelle in 2013. He was the father of 3 children. Detective Farwell had also been an instructor with the Police Explorers program since joining the department in Stoughton in 2012. He met Sandra at that time. She would have been 14 years old. Matthew told his colleagues looking into Sandra's case that he reconnected with the then 23-year-old several months before. After a night out with too much to drink, he admitted that they had been intimate. He further confessed to meeting with her once or twice more after that. But the detective rejected the assertion that he had impregnated Sandra. The timing simply did not add up, he claimed. More recently, he had been distancing himself from her, and then he claimed he had formally and assertively broken things off with her. The breakup occurred on the evening of February 1st at Sandra's home. It had been a nasty argument, he said. She had been very upset, but alive, when he left her apartment.
Johnson's is one of the best experiences in Wichita for fresh-cut greenery and Christmas trees. Our holiday events have begun. Visit.
The detective's story may have fooled his fellow law enforcement officers, who likely wanted it to be true, but his claims did not convince anyone who knew Sandra. She was not known to keep secrets. She spoke openly about her personal life, apparently even to those whom she had only known for a short time. In fact, Sandra's oversharing was behavior that made her coworkers uncomfortable. Those even closer to her, such as extended family, had been made aware of details that often upset them.
She spent a lot of time over here. Many summers. Used to have the pool in the backyard. She was hilarious, and she was smart as a whip too. Oh my God, she was smart as a whip. Years goes by. She slips out that she may or may not be having a relationship with one of the instructors. Family members are a little upset about it.
We just all knew he was the father. She's talked about him for years.
According to her cousin, to whom she confided, Sandra's latest pregnancy was not her first.
She had told me she had a miscarriage, and the father was a police officer. Sad that she had the miscarriage, you know. So when she finally got pregnant and everything was going well, right before she passed away, she was just so ecstatic that she was finally going to be a mother.
Upon her death, the family released a statement about Sandra. They said her greatest wish was to become a mother, and she would have been an amazing one. In May 2021, the pathologist who conducted the autopsy at the state medical examiner's office ruled that Sandra Birchmore's manner of death was suicide.
Sandra was a quirky, kind child. She grew up in Stoughton, Massachusetts, and she was excited that she was pregnant and about to have a baby. She would tell anybody that she was so excited to have this child. And that is part of the reason why people didn't believe that she did this to herself.
Detective Matthew Farwell's admission of a relationship with Sandra prompted an internal investigation at the Stoughton Police Department. It sought to uncover the full truth of what may have occurred during her time with the Young Explorers program. The shocking and deeply upsetting...
It's just a thought here, but it probably sparked the big D going on in his house if his wife found out that a little child like that, 23-year-old child, was with his child.
Details of this internal affairs investigation were released to the public the following September.
What I'm about to brief you on is something deeply troubling to me as a human being and as a police chief. Miss Birchmore was a vulnerable person who had one constant in her life since childhood: her unwavering admiration of police officers, of those serving the military, people in uniform, people with oaths and duties to protect and serve. The admiration led her to form relationships with men who were willing to take advantage of her. What I am here to talk about today is her life and how she was failed by, manipulated by, and used by people of authority that she admired and trusted right up until her final days.
3 members of the Stoughton Police, Detective Matthew Farwell, his twin brother, Officer William Farwell, and the former deputy chief and head of the Police Explorers program, Robert Devine, were all found to have played a role in grooming and abusing Sandra. Internal Affairs uncovered evidence suggesting that Matthew's personal relationship with Sandra began when she was...
So how do 3 grown men, 2 of them being brothers, I can kind of in my brain figure out the conversation there, especially if they lived in the same house. But as adults, they probably didn't live in their parents' home anymore. But then you have another coworker right here beside you. How on earth would 3 grown men, or if the roles were reversed, 3 grown women, either way, let's say 3 grown adults, come to the decision that they are going to groom a child until the child is old enough to do whatever they want to groom the child for, and then they're going to turn their backs on the child once they're done with whatever they want to do. How would that even get started? Maybe somebody can tell me in the comments.
Just 15 years old. At that time, he was 27. The age of consent in Massachusetts is 16. The investigation found that both William and Robert's physical relationship with her was ongoing at the time of her death. They found that William had attempted to introduce Sandra to other men, and that at least one additional officer from another department was complicit. That man was later named as Abington Police Officer Josh Heel. This was not the first time that former Deputy Devine had been involved in a department scandal. In 2014, graphic photos of Robert and a mistress were emailed to members of the department and their spouses. As a result, he was demoted to the role of patrol officer, but to the surprise of many, remained on the force. In the wake of this investigation, all 3 men from Stoughton, the Farwell brothers and Devine, resigned from the department. Steps were then taken to ensure that they were decertified and unable to work in law enforcement again. The evidence was significant enough to summon the disgust and condemnation of the current police chief and the public, but the county fell short of bringing criminal charges. Despite multiple witnesses who could speak to the disturbing details shared with them from Sandra, the DA claimed that the case was too weak to pursue. The investigation also found that at least one individual had attempted to report Matthew Farwell's behavior directly to the Stoughton PD in January of that year. A friend of Sandra's, whom she owed money, had called the department to try to report the dispute they were having. During that call, the friend told the officer on the phone that Matthew Farwell should look into getting her money back, since he was in a sexual relationship with Sandra. The officer, instead of reporting what the friend said in the call, chose only to mention it directly to Matthew Farwell. The detective told the officer to keep the information quiet and not mention it to anyone else, which is exactly what happened. Yet another friend approached police immediately following Sandra's death with information implicating Detective Farwell in suspected foul play.
These men knew who they were dealing with, an innocent girl who was just looking for love and attention. And she didn't have an appropriate male figure in her life because her father wasn't in her life. So these guys became that, but they groomed her and they used that to their advantage.
The results of the internal investigation came as a shock to the public in Canton, as well as neighboring Stoughton. The communities are separated by only a few miles. As the horrific details came to the surface, so too did public grievance over the broader issue of police corruption, which appeared to permeate all of Norfolk County. It seemed unreasonable to believe that Sandra had been involved with so many officers for years, without the arrangement becoming an open secret, shared and discussed amongst officers across departments, perhaps across the wider county.
In the city are supposed to protect and serve, and it's kind of a shame that, you send your kid into a field where you think that she will be protected and she is serving for a higher purpose, and it's everything but that.
The question is, what the hell is going on? Who is in charge there? And if anybody's in charge there, is he or she being held accountable?
The police, unfortunately, now that it's showing how corrupt some of our legal systems are, I think the police need to be held responsible.
There's a bad element that has been allowed to happen, and there's been cover-ups, and it's, it shakes the trust of people.
The long goodbye begins. A very special evening with Journey.
There was reason to believe that the issues with law enforcement ran deeper than Sandra's case. Almost exactly 1 year after her tragic death, Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found dead in the snow following an argument with his girlfriend, Karen Reed. Karen was arrested and later tried.
Oh, I didn't know that had anything to do with this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
For the murder, while protests took place outside the courtroom daily, claiming Canton police framed Karen for the murder and were covering for the real killer.
This case, it has sparked a lot of attention from Boston and beyond. It's prompted major media coverage, and to be honest, and to be frank, it sparked several conspiracy theories. NBC 10's Manoj Kwangwar.
Not surprisingly, there were overlaps in the personnel working on both Sandra and John O'Keefe's cases.
Everything's connected. It's part of the same Norfolk County DA's office. They're all connected, but now they're coming to light.
This included 2 Canton and 3 state police, a detective from each force. Each of them came to the same conclusion relating to Sandra's death, that it was not a homicide. The conclusion was reached despite family members' insistence that Sandra was ecstatically happy about becoming a mother. Friends also came forward reporting that Sandra had informed them that the father, who they knew to be Detective Farwell, had been angry over the pregnancy. Sandra had told Matthew that she expected $4,000 a month in child support and an additional $3,000 for daycare. She told her friends that they argued over whether he would sign the birth certificate. At one point, she said that he told her that he was not the father and that he just wished she would die. This information was recorded by state police, but not pursued. While evidence of foul play was set aside, reports were also made that Matthew Farwell complained openly to a colleague that he had been looked into by the Massachusetts State Police at all. Over drinks with an unnamed individual, he expressed frustration that the matter had not been immediately dismissed by fellow law enforcement. In March 2021, Matthew had been asked to hand over his personal and work cell phones to State Trooper Nick Guarino to extract their data. This trooper also worked on the Karen Reed case, where defense attorneys argued he failed to retrieve key data.
That extraction you placed on the server did not include all the potential data on John O'Keefe's phone, did it?
How do you mean?
Well, didn't you indicate in your report that the extraction was not inclusive of all potential data contained within the device?
No, that's not true.
That August, after months with the devices, Guarino reported that he was unable to locate any messages between Matthew and Sandra on either device. Shortly thereafter, a federal expert assisting the internal affairs investigation would extract over 32,000 text exchanges made between the two in the year before Sandra's death. The county would not pursue charges, but the family of Sandra Birchmore continued to seek justice nonetheless. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the town of Stoughton in late 2022. The civil lawsuit alleged wrongful death, negligence, pain and suffering, and emotional distress over what it described as a years-long grooming scheme undertaken by 3 members of law enforcement, which ultimately resulted in Sandra's death. They did not need to allege it was homicide to prove that these men were the reason that Sandra was no longer living. But that did not mean that they accepted the conclusion reached by the state medical examiner. The family reached out to prominent and well-respected forensic pathologist, Dr. Michael Bodden, for a second opinion. He examined the work and conclusions of Sandra's original autopsy. Dr. Bodden's professional conclusions contradicted the original results. He found that Sandra had not died by hanging, but rather by strangulation. The manner of death was homicide. It was the FBI, not the local or state police, that took over the investigation. The FBI asked 2 additional medical examiners to draw independent conclusions based on the same photos and documentation from the original autopsy. Both doctors agreed with the determination made by Dr. Bodden. Sandra had been attacked. There had been a struggle, and she had been killed. Had the local detectives extracted and scrutinized Sandra's correspondence with Matthew Farwell, they would have discovered that the dynamic of the relationship shifted on December 28, 2020, when Sandra told Matthew that she was pregnant. Messages to the detective and others show that Sandra had intended to get pregnant. Their physical relationship appeared to have continued more or less uninterrupted for roughly 8 years. Messages detailed a disturbing trend of reliving encounters from the earlier years, and the detective in his late 30s controlling the young and vulnerable woman who idolized him as an officer. Then, in October 2020, Sandra wrote a draft text intended for Matthew's wife and sent it to a friend. It read, "I am just messaging to inform you that your husband Matthew has been out cheating on you since before you guys were even married." The friend who received this message informed Sandra that Matthew's wife was in fact expecting their 3rd child. She was due in February. On that same day, Sandra began asking Matthew to visit at set times during her cycle. She too wanted a baby. The detective, in conversations that took place in person, evidently agreed. Though after the pregnancy news came 2 months later, Matthew did not respond well. "I'm mad you're acting how you are over a choice we both made. I'm mad you act like you gave anyone a choice. LMAO, oh, so you didn't have a choice? Per usual, you make and do whatever you want. You're mad she's due in February and I'm in September, and you don't know how you're going to be there for both of us. You are truly the worst person on the face of the earth." The detective's anger was also piqued following the phone call made by Sandra's friend to the department when they openly spoke about their relationship to his colleague. He wrote, "Like, you have no idea how bad what she did is. I literally can't believe this is even real life. Like, what else do I have to worry about now? Which other friend will do something tomorrow?" At least 3 friends of Sandra's, whom she was in contact with in the weeks before her death, told agents that Matthew had grown physically violent with her when they discussed the pregnancy. Sandra Birchmore was 4 feet 10 inches tall. Matthew Farwell is 6'4". 10 days before she died, he had gotten angry with her for showing him a fetal sonogram. According to what she told friends, his response was, "That's not my child. I don't want anything really to do with you." And then he pushed her to the ground. Though what was more telling than this escalating behavior was what happened 1 week before the murder, when his anger disappeared. At this time, Matthew began responding to messages about the pregnancy positively. He agreed that they could talk about using his name on the birth certificate. He also reminded Sandra of an offer she had made to give him a key to her apartment. In October, he had said it was a bad idea for him to keep a key, but in the last week of January, records show that he had one made. Matthew then requested the passcode to enter the Canton Woods building, asking Sandra if it was the same code used by all residents, or was it specifically assigned to her. On January 24th, only days before she was killed, Sandra texted a friend about his visit that night. "He asked me if I'd give him a key and said that if I keep it a secret, meaning the baby, he'll be around and see them and all that. So it's somewhere. Then he looked in my closet and then the bathroom, but I don't know why. Haven't figured that out." To another friend, she wrote, "But like, last night he opened my closet door for something, and then he went into my bathroom looking at my bathroom. It was just really odd. He started looking around. I don't know."
Open a whole new world of fascinating places and people for just $39.
Reception there?
I have a purpose.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you make money at this little table tennis?
On the night Sandra died, she was captured on video at approximately 5:01 p.m. accepting a DoorDash order, and then again going outside briefly and returning with a snow brush. The timestamps on the apartment security camera footage was found to be 13 minutes off of real time. The last time that Sandra is seen alive on the video is at 5:33 p.m. Later that evening, at just after 9 p.m., Matthew sent her a text message asking whether he could come by for a second. Surveillance video shows Matthew entering the Canton apartment building at 9:14 p.m. In the surveillance video, he is wearing street clothes, a hoodie with the hood up, and a face mask. Multiple witnesses told FBI investigators that the detective resisted wearing a mask during the pandemic. He would only wear one when on duty and required by department policy to do so. The video surveillance recording shows that Matthew left the apartment at 9:43. He told police that this is when he broke off his supposedly brief affair with Sandra. He claimed that she was alive when he left. Health data on Sandra's iPhone showed that her last movement was recorded that night at 9:40 p.m., 3 minutes before Matthew was captured on surveillance leaving her apartment. She had moved 8 steps according to her device. The iPhone was found 12 feet from her right hand. The phone powered off from battery loss 2 days later, on February 3rd. On August 28, 2024, Matthew Farwell was arrested by federal authorities and indicted for 1 count of killing a witness or victim, a charge more commonly applied to organized crime. Charging Matthew with a federal crime allowed the U.S. District Attorneys and the FBI to retain jurisdiction over the case, one that had been bungled under a cloud of alleged corruption by local and state officials. They argued that Matthew was motivated by the desire to silence Sandra. Authorities alleged that Matthew Farwell chose to murder Sandra at an opportune time, when his wife, having gone into labor, was otherwise occupied. The incoming storm also gave him cover. He knew it was more likely to delay anyone discovering Sandra in the apartment for a day or more. After scoping the apartment the week before, the detective, professionally trained and adept in crime scene analysis, staged the murder in an attempt to deceive his colleagues. Then, he relied upon law enforcement loyalties to cast a blind eye on the mountain of evidence pointing towards him. As of the publication of this video, he remains in custody. If convicted, Matthew Farwell may face the death penalty. An investigation from early 2024 by the Marshall Project detailed the history of sexual abuse and misconduct allegations within law enforcement explorer programs. Officers did not always face criminal prosecutions for their actions, and among those that did, about half were sentenced to time behind bars, ranging from weekends in jail to years in prison. Documents provided by the Stoughton Police Department show a program run with little oversight. They have stated that the program is no longer in operation. Karen Reed's first trial ended in a hung jury. Her defense alleged an intricate conspiracy among law enforcement officers to frame her in the killing. These many charges of corruption resulted in a public vote for a full audit to be undertaken of the Canton Police Department. Protesters calling for the vote carried signs that read, "Free Karen Reed" and "Justice for Sandra Birchmore."
Okay. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So, do you think the officer that is currently behind bars is also going through or has recently gone through the Big D? Because I don't think, if I was married to him and this had happened, we would no longer be married. I'm sorry. It just don't work that way. All right, next we're going to go to Carolyn Kraft on Microsoft. Now she's going to say some of the same stuff, so I might skip some of her video. Hers is only
2021, which was 3 days after she was allegedly killed by a man who had known her for almost a decade. Now, the very fact that I just said Canton, Massachusetts may ring a bell for you. There are a lot of similarities and crossovers between this case and the Karen Reed case. But before I go further, I want to do a quick introduction. My name's Carolyn, and I'm a lawyer who takes an investigative approach in uncovering the invisible forces that control our world. This includes diving into true crime, ethics, philosophy, and psychology. These are all deeply intertwined and influence society as we know it. Plus, I have a passion for finding the truth and fighting for justice. Now, this specific case popped up on my radar because a subscriber of mine mentioned it in one of my Karen Reed videos, and the secrecy, manipulation, and abuse of authority made me want to cover it. This case is, like I said, tragic and involves alleged grooming, covered up police misconduct, botched investigations, cheating, and much more. And I believe that Sandra Birchmore and her story deserve and need as much attention as the Karen Reed case got. Before I get into it, I also want to say there's going to be a quick wardrobe change about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through or so, and that's because I had IT issues, classic, and I had to film this on 2 different days. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'll look different. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. Much like the Reed case, this involves the Canton Police Department. It occurred in Canton. The FBI is also involved. Both cases have alleged police misconduct. Both involve alleged mismanagement of investigation, and specific officers show up in both of these cases. That being said, in the Birchmore case, we have evidence of almost a decade of police abuse and misconduct that is just coming to light now because the victim of that abuse and misconduct was found dead in her apartment in Canton. The abuse occurred under the Stoughton Police Department, but since she was found dead in Canton, the alleged mismanagement of the investigation was done by the Canton Police Department. Before we discuss what happened on February 1st of 2021 though, which is the day she died, we first must go back almost a decade in time, because that is what led up to this tragic day. Sandra Birchmore endured a lot of pain in her early life. She never knew her biological father, her stepfather died when she was very young, and she lost her grandmother, mother, and aunt all within a 3-year time period. Nonetheless, she was described as a vibrant person who took Brazilian jiu-jitsu and cardio kickboxing lessons starting at the young age of 11. She also developed a passion for and interest in law enforcement, and as a young preteen, around 12 to 13 years old, she joined the Stoughton Police Explorers program. The Police Explorers program is a nationwide program headed by the Boy Scouts, and its purpose is to introduce children interested in law enforcement to the world of law enforcement. Through that program, she met William and Matthew Farwell, who were twin brothers and involved in the program in a variety of ways, as well as Robert Devine, who was the program's leader and a mentor to the Farwell brothers. Sandra was a young and impressionable girl who trusted authority, had no strong father figures in her life, and was interested in law enforcement, which made her an easy target of exploitation and abuse while in this program. Per evidence of communication between Sandra and Matthew online, the alleged grooming began in 2012, and Matthew began assaulting her that same year, which is when she was 15 and he was 27. The age of consent in Massachusetts is 16, which means his conduct was a crime, hence me calling it an assault. And outside the legality of it, she was still a child who was the victim of grooming and manipulation by multiple adult men, which that's something we'll get back to later. Sandra and Matthew's sexual relationship continued throughout her time in the Explorer, inappropriate communications with her. In that same internal affairs report, a past participant in the Explorers program said they saw inappropriate behavior by Devine and the Farwell brothers, which included hugging, kissing, and inappropriate contact in a closet. And apparently they had made statements like, "Come back and see me when you turn 18. On top of all of this, we know that William Farwell exchanged explicit messages and photos with Sandra while he was on duty, and allegedly he tried to introduce Sandra to other men. William currently does not face any criminal charges in the case and argues that his sexual relationship with Sandra went on for about 2 years and it occurred when she was an adult. Now, while the relationship with Sandra and Matthew Farwell continued up until her death, or allegedly, Matthew previously claimed to law enforcement that he had been trying to distance himself from her and that he hadn't seen her since October of 2020, which was about 4 months before her death. We know that this is false, although he was likely trying to do this to avoid being connected to her pregnancy. When she died, she was 3 months pregnant and had claimed Matthew was the father, and there is proof that they had sexual encounters leading up to her death, and according to text messages, it does not seem he refuted the claim that he was the father, although later after her death, he argued it was not his child. Then, interestingly enough, in a bombshell report that came out in June of 2025, this most recent June, we actually found out that Matthew Farwell was not the father of the child. Nonetheless, they were still sexually involved. Whether this information will change anything is yet to be determined, but as a former federal prosecutor said, he doesn't have to be the father, he just has to think he's the father. That's what gives him the motive to be homicidal. Now, leading up to her death, Sandra was very excited about her pregnancy. She had planned a pregnancy announcement for Valentine's Day, she planned a gender reveal event, and she was telling all her friends all about it. But according to text messages, Matthew did not feel the same way. And that makes a lot of sense, seeing as he was married with 2 children and had a 3rd one on the way. Fiery text messages between the two showed that Sandra wanted him to be present for her delivery, put his name on the birth certificate, and have some involvement in the child's life. She said, and I quote, "Your kid should matter." And he responded, "You are truly the worst person on the face of the earth." In another text exchange about the pregnancy, Matthew accused her of threatening him. He said, "Now you've got me, and if I didn't go and give you what you wanted, you would ruin me." He probably meant go, not do. That's why I added that in there. And yeah, if it came out that he had a baby with another woman while he was married with kids, and that he engaged in sex with a minor, it would definitely ruin him. But I don't think that's solely Sandra's fault, is it? It was his choice to engage in an extramarital affair, and given the history of grooming and abuse, I would say it wasn't Sandra's fault at all. Grooming a minor is exploitation of that child, and the blame lies with the adult who did it, not with the child. The day of her death, February 1st, Matthew was the last person to see Sandra alive. On that day, he texted Sandra at 9:08 p.m., wanting to know if he could come by for a second. 2 minutes later, she texted him back that the door would be open. Then, 4 minutes after that, security footage showed Matthew wearing a hoodie and a medical face mask entering Sandra's building. And I want to point out that Matthew was wearing a medical face mask. It was odd, because apparently he was well known as being resistant to COVID-19 mask mandates. Now, her cell phone cataloged her final steps at 9:40 p.m., and 3 minutes later, at 9:43 p.m., cameras recorded Matthew exiting the building. He was likely headed to the hospital because his wife was giving birth to his 3rd child there, who was born hours after Matthew allegedly killed Sandra. On the day Sandra's body was found, which was February 4th, her colleagues at Sharon Public Schools had alerted the police because she had missed work for multiple days. And now here's where the Canton Police Department comes in, because she died in Canton, and that department was in charge of the investigation. Following the call by her colleagues, Canton police officers checked her apartment. The first cop to respond to Sandra's home was Canton Police Sergeant Michael Lank, who, if you were watching the Karen Reed trial, you know was very involved in that investigation. The responding officers of the Canton Police Department and the state troopers assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office ruled this immediately, before her body was even autopsied by a state medical examiner. But the state medical examiner, Dr. Maria Capo-Martinez, later agreed with that assessment, and to this day, Sandra's death certificate still reads that she took her own life. Now, this is an important point that we will come back to later, because the federal government disagrees. And yes, also like the Karen Reed trial, the FBI is now heavily involved in this case. But that conversation comes later because we really need to understand the order of events here. Okay, so Sandra's estate brought a wrongful death lawsuit against Stoughton officials, which argues that Sandra's alleged was the culmination of a near-decade-long scheme of grooming and repeated assault from a young age by certain members of the Stoughton police. Specifically, the civil suit named Devine and the Farwell brothers, accusing them of grooming and assaulting her, as well as the town of Stoughton and the Stoughton Police Department. The state also hired an expert to determine the cause of death, and he ruled that the death may have been a homicide at the hands of Matthew Farwell. We later found out that this medical examiner was Dr. Michael Baden, who's actually a famous forensic pathologist known for his work in high-profile cases, such as the reinvestigations of the assassination of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. He was also the host of the HBO series Autopsy, and he's actually somewhat known for his controversial opinions, including making 2 claims in the O.J. Simpson case that he later disowned. Now, Dr. Michael Baden pointed out that Sandra had a fractured bone in her neck, which is the type of injury that is rarely, if at all, found in self-imposed hangings. But this injury does occur in half of homicidal strangulations of women. In addition, he pointed out that the ligature was entangled in Sandra's hair, which he argues occurred because there was resistance during the homicide. The FBI also hired their own medical examiner, Dr. William Smock, who, like Dr. Michael Baden, also disagrees with Dr. Maria Capo-Martinez that Sandra took her own life. He believes it was a homicide, pointing to the same evidence that Dr. Michael Baden did, and adding some additional evidence to support his conclusion. Weeks after Sandra died, relatives found a necklace on her bedroom floor. It was broken along the chain, not the clasp, and had a clump of hair stuck in it. This very necklace.
I think he was checking to see if the Masons were in there having anything to do with it. Okay. Next, we will go to MSN. Ex-deputy chief says Sandra Birchmore lied about everything. Former Massachusetts Deputy Police Chief Robert C. Devine said in a June hearing that Red Rum victim Sandra Birchmore consistently lied. News Nation obtained footage of a disciplinary hearing involving Devine, where the nature of his relationship with Birchmore was in question. If this goes anywhere. Okay. I clicked this blue link right here, and I'm going to switch us over to Banfield for just a second. Okay. Where's my volume?
Months pregnant, was found hanging in her. been more than 4.5 years since Sandra Birchmore, then 23 years old and 3 months pregnant, was found hanging in her apartment in Canton, Massachusetts. But it is the decade of exploitation and deceit and corruption that came before that turned what looked like a simple suicide into an all-out murder case brought by the feds, and a lawsuit brought by Sandra's family, and multiple investigations and hearings involving police in the neighboring town of Stoughton. That's where Sandra joined the Young Explorers program when she was just 13. It's a program for kids who don't want to get a taste of police work. The man charged with Sandra's murder, Matthew Farwell, was a Stoughton cop and a mentor in the Explorers program. But before he was hit with those charges, Sandra's family filed a lawsuit accusing him and 2 other Stoughton cops of, and I quote, grooming and repeated sexual assaults against Sandra over the course of a decade. Those other 2 cops, now former cops, are Matthew Farwell's brother, William Farwell, and Robert Devine, the former deputy chief of the Stoughton Police Department and leader of the Explorer program. Both men deny wrongdoing, and neither has been charged with any crime connected to Sandra. But for months now, Devine has been the subject of a secret disciplinary set of hearings, and the Boston Globe just unearthed a bombshell from a closed-door hearing in June. The authorities, or the Globe says authorities now believe that former Deputy Chief Devine contacted, that's the word they used, contacted Sandra Birchmore on the very same day that she died, February 1st, 2021. It's unclear what form that alleged contact took, or what was said in the contact, or even whether Birchmore responded to Deputy Chief Devine. We do know Matthew Farwell is alleged to have strangled Birchmore that evening, February 1st. And we know he's seen on video surveillance entering and leaving her apartment building. We know that Sandra believed, or at least claimed, that Matthew Farwell was the father of her unborn baby, and Farwell apparently believed that he was. But the Globe reported earlier this year that DNA tests proved otherwise. The baby's father's true identity has not yet been revealed, and it may not be known. Matthew Farwell's murder trial hasn't yet been scheduled, but video recordings of the hearings for Robert Devine at Deputy Chief, they're being prepped for public release, and they could drop any day now. So, as I often say, watch this space.
So,
One second, they're a neighbor you like. The next, they're a neighbor you trust.
you got on the wrong.
Joined now by a friend of the show and one of the sharpest legal minds in the business, Judge Tarlika Nunes-Navarro is a former judge, former prosecutor, and currently the dean of the St. Thomas University College of Law. Judge, it's good to have you here on a day like this. How damning are those texts, the ones that I just read out? Because that's all I have right now.
Well, good evening, Ashley.
Okay, this is a wrong story.
Tragic case. My condolences to
But it
Erica
says up
and
here,
the children,
Sandra
and
Birchmore.
also to the family of the defendant. This is horrible for everyone. How damning are these text messages? Honestly, as a former defense attorney, a 22-year-old, yes, that's mitigation, but you have a 20
running away to try to secret yourself and secret the gun.
So they have really nothing else to utilize in the mitigation.
Testify against him, because that would be one.
Men, they did the right thing to testify against their son, yes.
I want to make healthcare smarter, easier, and more human.
It's about more than saving lives.
Okay, I don't know where the story that went to that one went. I guess it's right here. Let me pull it up for you. Whoops, sorry about that.
Four and a half years since Sandra Birchmore, then 23 years old and 3 months pregnant, was found hanging in her apartment in Canton, Massachusetts. But it is the decade of exploitation and deceit and corruption that came before that turned what looked like a simple suicide into an all-out murder case brought by the feds, and a lawsuit brought by Sandra's family, and multiple investigations and hearings involving police in the neighboring town of Stoughton. That's where Sandra joined the Young Explorers program when she was just 13. It's a program for kids who don't want to get a taste of police work. The man charged with Sandra's murder, Matthew Farwell, was a Stoughton cop and a mentor in the Explorers program. But before he was hit with those charges, Sandra's family filed a lawsuit accusing him and 2 other Stoughton cops of, and I quote, grooming and repeated sexual assaults against Sandra over the course of a decade. Those other 2 cops, now former cops, are Matthew Farwell's brother, William Farwell, and Robert Devine, the former deputy chief of the Stoughton Police Department and leader of the Explorer program. Both men deny wrongdoing, and neither has been charged with any crime connected to Sandra. But for months,
in my opinion, just personal opinion, I think all grooming should be against the law.
now, Devine has been the subject of a secret disciplinary set of hearings, and the Boston Globe just unearthed a bombshell from a closed-door hearing in June. The authorities, or the Globe says authorities now believe that former Deputy Chief Devine contacted, that's the word they used, contacted Sandra Birchmore on the very same day that she died, February 1st, 2021. It's unclear what form that alleged contact took, or what was said in the contact, or even whether Birchmore responded to Deputy Chief Devine. We do know Matthew Farwell is alleged to have strangled Birchmore that evening, February 1st, and we know he's seen on video surveillance entering and leaving her apartment.
It looks like they're just going to say the same thing that they said over again. So now, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing. Okay, it says former officer's arraignment on indictment in unaliving a Sandra Birchmore's unborn child pushed back. Okay. Now, I don't know why it's talking about just the unborn child and not about her herself. Because it says former officer's arraignment on indictment in unaliving of Sandra Birchmore's unborn child pushed back. Okay, for former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell's arraignment on a federal indictment charging him with in connection with the death of Sandra Birchmore's unborn child has been delayed. Farwell was arrested and indicted on a federal charge. Let me see. I'm looking to see if I can pull up that page. Okay. I don't know if it's going to pull up or not. Okay. It looks like it will. All right. Let's switch over to that one. Okay.
and that the officer began a sexual relationship with Birchmore when she was a teenager. According to court records, the suspect knew the victim for years. She was just a child when she joined a program that teaches young people about careers in law enforcement. Court records also allege he had been having a sexual relationship with her since she was 15 years old. Some of the most disturbing allegations come from texts between the suspect and victim. And we have live team coverage for you tonight on this story, beginning with Boston 25 News reporter Bob Ward, live outside federal court in Boston. And Bob, these allegations are so difficult to hear.
Yeah, Mark, it's a highly disturbing case. And this afternoon, Matthew Farwell was arraigned here at U.S. District Court in South Boston, charged with the death of Sandra Birchmore. I attended this arraignment. He appeared handcuffed and shackled. He pleaded not guilty, but he is in some serious charges. He even faces the possibility of the federal death penalty. This is the moment that a SWAT team took down former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell at a shopping plaza in Revere Wednesday morning. He's now charged in federal court with one count of killing a witness or victim for the disturbing February 2021 death of 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore, who was allegedly carrying his baby. She was found hanging in her Canton apartment. Sandra Birchmore first met Matthew Farwell when she was just 12 years old and a member of the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers program. Authorities say the two began having sex when she was 15. And in newly revealed text messages, the two later talked about it. Birchmore: "I had butterflies so bad the day you took my virginity." Farwell: "Me too. It was such a big day." Birchmore: "Still know the date to this day."
There we go, 1970. Superseding indictment at all times relevant to this superseding indictment, general allegations between on or about March 27, 2012 and on or about April 1st, 2022. Defendant Matthew Farwell, hereinafter Farwell, was a sworn officer of the Stoughton Police Department in Stoughton, Massachusetts. In his capacity as the Stoughton police officer, Farwell also served as an instructor for the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, hereafter the Police Explorers, which was a vocational education program for local youth. The Police Explorers was designed to enable youth participants to learn about law enforcement careers. Sandra Birchmore was born in May of 1997. In or around March 2010, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a participant in the Police Explorers. At that time, Birchmore was 12 years old. She began participating in the program in or around the spring of 2010 and remained in the program in or around 2016. Prior to or around 2012, Farwell was a Police Explorer volunteer. He became an instructor when he started working for the Stoughton Police Department in 2012. Before Birchmore attained the age of 16 years old, Farwell engaged in actual course and other acts with Birchmore. Farwell's contact with Birchmore continued until in or around early 2021. The Stoughton Police Department required employees, including police officers, to accurately report their time and attendance in order to receive wages and overtime. During some of the shifts when Farwell was supposed to be performing his duties as a Stoughton police officer, he was instead engaged in acts with Birchmore. He failed to disclose that information to the Stoughton Police Department. Also, he took steps to control his conduct from other department employees. In or around December 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant. Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of the child. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Stoughton Police Department and told a department employee that Farwell had been having sex with Birchmore. Shortly thereafter, a Stoughton Police Department employee told Farwell about the call. On or about February 1st, 2021, Farwell killed Birchmore by strangulation. Shortly thereafter, Farwell stayed Birchmore's Canton, Massachusetts apartment to make it appear as if Birchmore had committed unaliving, self-harm. At the time Birchmore's unaliving by strangulation, she was pregnant and carrying in utero an unborn male child whose gestational age was between 8 and 10 weeks. Count 1. The grand jury charges. The grand jury releases and incorporates by reference the allegations in perhaps 1 through 8 of this suspending indictment. On or about February 1st, 2021, in Canton, in the District of Massachusetts, the defendant, Matthew Farwell, did unalive Sandra Birchmore, a person known to the gallery jury with malice afterthought, willfully, deliberately, maliciously, and with premeditation, and with the intent to prevent the communication by any person to a law enforcement officer of information relating to the commission or possible communication of a federal officer, to wit, commission or impossible commission of the federal offense of deprivation of rights under color of law in violation of 18 USC $242. Coercion and enticement in violation of 18 USCA 2422B, and wire fraud in violation of 18 USC 1343. All violations in Title 18 United States Code Section 1512A1C. This is much different than the I have a deal hanging in my downstairs closet, I believe. Tells me who's responsible for what and what's going on. Okay, so anyway, he was charged with it, and we have to wait and find out what is going to happen by next month. So, in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think that the three officers, basically Mr. Farwell, are guilty of what happened to her and her unaliving? I wish there'd have been a way. I mean, I understand that it was like 2 days after her unaliving that she was found. But I wish they'd have been able to save the baby. It's really sad that they weren't, or her, for that matter. But, I mean, who would have had reason to be watching that camera to make sure who came in, who came out? So, anyway, I thank y'all for being here. I'm sorry it was so late. I'll see if I can't find something new for tomorrow, because to the best of my knowledge, I only have physical therapy in the morning, and that's all I have to do tomorrow. Except I'm making some meatball soup. Oh, yummy. Okay, so do something nice for someone, even if it's just be the reason that they smile, and search for crime. I will see you tomorrow.